Next, we are going to have Mr. Chirag. In fact, in the brief interaction I had with him, he has got technologies which is at 50% of the global cost. Anyhow, more to Mr.
Yeah.
Chirag.
So now I would request Shri Chirag Rawat, founder of Climatic Change Technologies, to present his address.
Good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for joining us in today's discussion. So I'll be moving a little away from our current topic of this session. So ESG was the center stage of this session, but I'll be talking more about in the environment part of ESG. As sir highlighted in his presentation, that environment is very underreported part of ESG reporting, and I'll be talking more about the opportunities that are there in this journey that was highlighted. So I'll be talking about opportunities for MSMEs and entrepreneurs in achieving the net zero goals, which primarily revolves around the environment part of ESG. So when you open the internet, when you look at the news, you see net zero goals everywhere. Governments are announcing their net zero goals. Corporates are announcing their net zero goals. Recently, our honorable Prime Minister announced that India will be net zero by 2070. Thank you. So everyone is talking about net zero. What exactly is net zero, and how is it linked to the industry? Yeah, so every human activity that we undertake, you coming from home to this venue, we wearing clothes, eating food, the power that is lighting up the hall, it is all so it all results in some form of emissions, and all these human activities attributes to the total emission of our of the industry. uh, you using power here is resulting in emissions in some power plant. We wearing clothes is resulting in emission in some textile industry, and all these industries, all these emissions, they can be reduced using low carbon and energy efficiency technologies. Now, if you look at if you look at this image, the business as usual, as discussed in previous presentations also, a lot of emissions are taking place, and if we go by business as usual, if you use the usual practices, the traditional practices for industries, especially hard to abate industries, the emission levels are going to be very high. But if we use energy efficiency, low carbon technologies, these emissions could be mitigated. Plus, there are ways to neutralize the residual emissions using carbon removal technologies like carbon capture technologies. Then there are forest restoration methods which we are actively deploying to reduce the residual negate the residual emissions. So with this, at some point, the net emissions become zero for any industry or for a country in general. So where is the industry headed? So the value chain, if you look at any value chain, I've taken in this case I've taken the example of the textile value chain. So we all wear clothes, right? And when you go and buy clothes, you look at the cost of the shirt that you are going to buy. Now, if you start asking the brand what is the carbon footprint of the shirt that you are buying, they'll tell you that it is say 10 kg of CO2 was emitted while manufacturing this shirt. So for that, they are not the only stakeholders in making that shirt. The entire value chain is there. They will go to their suppliers who are manufacturing the textiles. They will go to their suppliers who are manufacturing the yarn, the polyesters. They will go to their suppliers who are providing them with the synthetic chemicals and so on. So the entire value chain is responsible for a part of the total emissions that are taking place. And emission reduction, if there has to be an emission reduction in the industry, it has to come from all these stakeholders that are there in the value chain. And as highlighted in the previous presentation, is that it has to start from the top. So if you start asking the brands, if you start asking the companies, how can we need low carbon emissions associated with the food that we eat, with the clothes that we wear, with the power that we use. They will start, the process will start from there. So they will start asking their suppliers, their upstream suppliers to reduce their carbon emissions. And that is how this entire decarbonization process will take place. Now, with the carbon market stabilizing and with the domestic and international regulations kicking in, the focus will be on adapting low carbon and energy efficiency technologies. So there are certain challenges when it comes to reducing your carbon emissions. So as I said, I'll be more talking about the carbon emission only. So low carbon and energy efficiency technologies are still developing. If you look at the industry, we have a very good adoption of solar power in the industry, which are fairly developed. But other than the energy industry, if you look at the chemical industries, if you look at hard to abate sectors like steel, cement, these are very difficult, and the technology implementation at that scale that is needed is still under development. The technologies are not matured enough. Then there are lower awareness of emerging technologies. So there are various technology solutions that are already there, but the awareness among the industry is very low. Most of the emerging technologies that are available in any of the industry, they are very, the cost economics works only at scale. So small industries, entrepreneurs, MSMEs particularly, they'll not be able to adapt it as is. There needs to be a lot of work to be done in order to scale down the operation and to manage the right cost economics. And the cost of transition is very high. In most of the cases, if you look at the low carbon technologies, there has to be a cost of transition. It is very high particularly for MSMEs. Large corporates can manage to make the switch, but it is difficult for MSMEs to make the switch. Finally, technology inertia is there. As we can see in our daily lives also, if we are used to one particular practice, if an industry is using one particular technology, they tend to use it for a very long time, and they do not want to change to new technologies. They do not want to adapt to that. This inertia is there, which creates a challenge to switch to new technologies. But in a hindsight, all these challenges are actually opportunities if you look at them. So since these technologies are not, there are a lot more scope for development of low carbon energy efficiency technologies. A lot of technologies is being developed in India in the research centers that we have, by startups, by a lot of corporates in their R&D divisions. A lot of technologies, particularly in the hard to abate sectors like cement, steel industries, is taking place. There's a very high potential for emerging technologies. So as I said, the penetration of these emerging technologies is very low. So when you talk about green hydrogen, for example, we only talk about green hydrogen for only large corporates are talking about green hydrogen and their transition to green hydrogen. There's a lot of scope for MSMEs to use green hydrogen. Then there's a lot of scope for MSMEs to develop technologies, offer technologies for green hydrogen, because as we have seen, a lot of our clean energy technologies are being imported, coming from China, US, Europe. So there are a lot of opportunities in India itself to develop and provide these green energy technologies. Then, as I mentioned, these are called not cost effective. So there's a scope for climate finance. Now, climate finance is something that can be a game changer in the industry, and with trillions of dollars at stake, it has become the center stage even for traditional financial institutions to look at the emission factors of the production process that you are taking, and climate finance can bridge the gap between the industries and the emerging technologies. Finally, we have seen that Indian manufacturers, Indian industries are not very competitive at global scale. China has always taken the lead in manufacturing, and they have always had an edge against every other country in terms of manufacturing. But this is the time. There's a transition from traditional practices to the newer manufacturing processes, and every customer, every buyer in the international market is looking for products which has a lower carbon intensity, even if they have to pay the premium. So here's an opportunity for Indian manufacturers, Indian industries, MSMEs to take this advantage and be competitive in the global scenario. So low carbon economy, that is where we are headed, and the low carbon economy will have a system which is parallel to the financial system that we have in place. So we are already talking about carbon auditing, accounting, reporting, and monetization. This is the most crucial part of this transition, because technologies will be adapted in future, and carbon emission reduction will take place, but the accounting and reporting and monetization practices are something which we have to very robustly design and adapt. As environmental reporting is the most underrated part of the ESG reporting, and because there are no set parameters, there are no set standards which are acceptable to the industries, and because there's still a lot of room for manipulation in the environmental reporting. That is why environmental carbon accounting and reporting is very important, and monetization could be done if we can use energy efficiency, low carbon technologies to reduce our emissions. That is a very essential part of this transition. Almost all retail and institutional investors are looking at these factors, your emission levels and your ESG ratings. So it is very important for all these new industries. They can take the edge if they can adapt to these technologies. And as I mentioned earlier, climate finance is worth a lot of money. So all these traditional banking institutions are looking at financing these kind of emerging technologies. So from a perspective of the MSMEs, from a perspective of small scale industries, this adapting new technologies can be a game changer instead of a challenge that they see. So with this, upskill, upgrade, and innovate. This is what I believe in, and the industries in India, they need to upskill individuals. The individual entrepreneurs need to upskill themselves from their traditional perspective to a new perspective of low carbon economy. They need to upgrade their processes, their technologies, and we need to innovate in India. That is the key to achieving the ambitious goals that are being set by the leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chirag. It was wonderful presentation.